Hello and welcome back to another episode of Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. Actually, screw that, we are doing the Shaman's Horde today in Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. Now today, we're going to be going over all the various boomerangs you can get throughout the game. Now there are many ways to get these, I mean a few. Of course, you're going to start with your basic boomerangs here. There are going to be a few that you get through story progression, one that you get at the very end of the game, but all the other ones are going to be unlocked by collecting these golden cogs here throughout the levels. Now there are 10 in each level, excluding Rainbow Cliffs, the hub level, all the boss levels, and the final levels. So it takes 15 of these to get one new rang, so you might want to get started. You're going to want to take them to Julius's lab in Rainbow Cliffs, and once you get 15, he will make you a new rang. Now let's start going down this list, shall we? Now, as I said, you're going to start off with just the basic boomerang. You actually start off with just one of them, and you're forced to go through most of the first level here until you get to this rock, which has your second rang sticking out of it, and then you finally get a pair of them. Of course, what comes with a pair of boomerangs, you are now able to glide a small distance across various gaps. Now the basic boomerang, there's nothing too good about it. Like I said, it's basic. It's carved from the wood of an ancient gum tree. This rang is light and fast. Like all boomerangs, it can be thrown in first person by pressing Ty's view button. You can also cycle through your rang collection and blah blah blah. That's no longer about this rang. So yeah, just your basic rang, nothing too special. You're gonna want to upgrade this bad boy pretty fast. The next rang you're likely to get is going to be in the second or possibly third level, depending on which order you get them in. It's going to be the Aquarang. Found by Rex in an old shipwreck, the Aquarangs can cut through water like a hot knife through butter. Unlike the other rangs, these are the only ones that work underwater. So as you enter shipwrecks, like I said, the second or third level, depending on how you do them, you're going to walk up and Rex here is going to stop you, and he's going to want to teach you how to swim. He's going to throw these rangs in the water here, and you're expected to dive down and grab them. So not only are these the only rangs you can use while you're underwater, don't expect any of your fancy Kaboomarangs or Megarangs, but you also get the ability to swim along with them. Pretty nice, I must say. Continuing on with the story progression, after the first boss, which is the bull, you will get the Flamerang. Harnessing the power of the fire thunder eggs, the Flamerang creates a devastating fireball on impact. Lightweight and durable, not only is it lethal to enemies, it can also melt ice. So of course you need this for story progression to get into the second subset of levels. It can melt ice. Also snow piles like that, it might take a few attempts, you gotta hit it just right sometimes. It can also burn away spider webs, and it will also one-hit specific enemies that the regular boomerangs cannot, such as these blue-tongue frills down here. Now they normally take 2 hits to defeat, but as you can see there, I beat them each in 1. There is one downside to these Flamerangs though. If you're collecting opals from wooden boxes, you're gonna have to wait a few seconds for the boxes to actually explode. But other than that, these are a very viable weapon to bring with you in your arsenal. These next ones are sort of a bonus to include in the video. They aren't one of Ty's permanent rangs. In fact, just looking at them now, it looks like a regular boomerang. You only get to use them in the Outback Safari level. But these are technically called the Lassorangs. And honestly, even in this level, you really only have to use them in one particular Thunder Egg. And it's gonna be this mission right here, where you just run around and you lasso these little ostrich emu dudes. And they kinda suck. That's all I have to say about the Lassorang. After the second boss of the game, you're going to get your second elemental rang, the Frostyrang. Using the energy from the Ice Thunder Eggs, the Frostyrang can put out fires, freeze enemies, and even create ice stepping stones in water. Now this one, of course, it can get rid of fires such as that. It can't get rid of much else on its own though. Where the Flamerang could get rid of webs and snow piles, this one can only really get rid of flaming piles of wood like that. Another downside to this one is that while it freezes enemies, it unfortunately will not kill them. If you wait a few seconds, the enemy will thaw out. Doesn't matter how many you throw at it, you'll have to go up and bite the enemy yourself in order to kill it. One pretty cool feature of this rang though, like it said in the description, if you find yourself some water, you aim at it, you can indeed create stepping stones in order to jump across the water with. Very useful indeed. The final elemental ring that you will get is, of course, after the third boss of the game. You're going to get the Zappyrang, brimming with energy from the Lightning Thunder Eggs. The Zappyrang is a highly charged rang with enough power to jumpstart a generator. Now the Zappyrang is exactly what you think it is. It is an electric rang. I don't know if it does more damage than the regular rang on anything. As you can see, my aim is absolutely terrible. But the only time I can really think that you'll need to use this is in order to get into the final set of levels. There is a single generator that you have to hit. Other than that, I believe it's just a bog standard rang. Moving on from the elemental rangs, let's get into the Technorangs. These are the rangs that you get from Julius for turning in the golden cogs. After you turn in the first 15, you will get the Zoomerang. With a built-in telescopic aimer, the Zoomerang has the longest reach of all the rangs. You can use it to zoom in on faraway objects. So just like it says, it has a really long range on it, which is nice, but keep in mind that when you don't have either of your rangs, you are open and all you can do to defend yourself is to bite. But say you see a button way over there that you can't quite aim for, this one also lets you zoom in and get that fine aim that you're looking for. The next you unlock is the Multirang. Not as fast or far-reaching as the others, the Multirang lets you throw multiple rangs at the same time. Use it to unleash a frenzy of boomerang justice on Cass's henchmen. So like I said, short range, very short, but look at how many of these things you can throw at once. You can practically run through a level just spamming these bad boys. Easy as that. Next up is the Infrarang. Using a special infrared attachment, the Infrarang will enable you to see things you couldn't see before when you press the Ty's View button. Make sure you scan for secrets when you visit somewhere new. The main purpose of this rang is to look for the hidden item frame boxes. Whenever you are near one, you will hear a sonar sound playing. And if you enter Ty's View, it looks all greenish, and you will actually see the invisible boxes as solid objects. Now normally there is one here, but I have already gotten them all on this save file. If you would like to see more on that, check out my video on all the item frame boxes. Now we get probably the most overpowered rang of the lot, the Megarang. Using Julius's patented super seeking technology, the Megarang has the ability to auto-target both enemies and crates. Useful when you run into a bunch of Cass's henchmen. And like it says, it's just like a normal boomerang, except you can aim wherever you want, and it will automatically, well, maybe you can't aim right behind you. Let's say you're aiming this way. It'll automatically go towards an enemy, and it will even bounce between them sometimes and chain attacks, which is very useful. Definitely the best rang combat-wise. The Kaboomarang is another overpowered one made from Explodarium, an ancient substance found only in the outback. The Kaboomarang creates a deadly explosion on impact. Now, as you can see with this group of frills here, let's just throw it. And it has quite a range on it as well, quite a range. It does have its downsides, however. First off, you throw both rangs at once, so while they are moving, again, like the Zoomerangs, you don't have any defense except your bite, so you gotta be ready for that. And they are kind of slow moving too. They don't really stop when they hit an enemy, they just keep going through them. So there are definitely some ups and downs to this one, so be ready for that. Another upside to the Kaboomarang is it can actually kill some enemies that are usually impervious to rangs, such as crabs. Normally you would have to bite that enemy to kill it and a rang would have no effect, but as you can see, the Kaboomarang gets the job done. And now for the final Technorang that you will get from turning in golden cogs, it is the Chronorang. Using Julius's latest invention, the trans-temporal transistor, the Chronorang can affect the time field around Cass's henchmen, causing them to slow down. Now this seems really good in hindsight, but I want you to know this is one of the 2 rangs in the game that cannot kill enemies on its own. Just like the Ice Rang, the Blizzrang, the Freezerang, whatever it's called. This one cannot kill enemies. And you see right here, they're moving at normal speed. Actually, they're not even chasing me. There they go. Now, whenever I hit one with the Chronorang, you see he gets slowed down. Now, it doesn't matter how many times I hit these guys, they aren't gonna stop completely, and they do not die, making this a honestly pretty subpar reward for getting all the golden cogs. The idea behind it is cool, but it doesn't really work too well. Saving the true final rang for last, this is the one you get at the very end of the game for the final boss fight. And you do get to play around with it after you beat the game a little bit too. It is the Doomarang. The Doomarang can be controlled remotely, allowing you to fly it into out-of-the-way places. Passed down through Ty's family, this is a last-minute gift from Sly. So when you throw these, you can actually control where they go for a limited amount of time until they explode, which is a really cool concept, but again, get these at the end of the game. And if you ever need to hit something precisely, you can always just aim your rangs, or say it's too far, you can just switch to the Zoomerang, zoom in on it a little, get a for sure hit. So honestly, these are kind of useless as cool as they are. But those are going to be the last rangs in the game for me to go over. And it's going to conclude this section of the video. Stay tuned though, I have a little bit of a fun thing coming up next. I didn't want to end it off with just this. So here we go. Alright, and we are back with the final segment of the video. Now shout out to Comma Crimson for doing this first before me. If you don't know Comma Crimson, he's a big member in the Ty the Tasmanian Tiger speedrun community. He breaks the world record for the first game pretty much like every 2 weeks. Like, he's constantly breaking it, bringing it down by 1 or 2 seconds at a time, but man really knows his stuff. He made a tier list for the Boomerangs in the first game, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of include my own tier list for that. Now, the main difference, he's a speedrunner. I'm just a casual, like, completionist type of guy, so when he was thinking about it, he added in, like, his own speedrun tactics, like what boomerang works best for that, and that influenced his decision. For me, it's just going to be on, like, their usability, what they can do, and how they react in combat and stuff. So starting off, we have the basic boomerang that you get at the beginning of the game, the Iron Bark, I believe it's called. Obviously, There's no plus sides, no downsides, so we're just going to put it mid, right? Moving on, we're going to go through the story boomerangs. We got the Aquarang, pretty much exactly the same as the regular boomerang, except you use it in the water. So obviously, another mid, right? We're going to do the Lassorang next. Now, this isn't the image I found for a Lassorang. This is actually for the Lassorang that you get in the second game. But I couldn't find an image for the Lassorang, so we're going to use this one. Lassorang, pretty terrible, honestly. You only need to use it once. You only get to use it during one area in the game, which is the Safari Outback. And you only need to use it during one mission there, so obvious F tier. Okay, now for the elemental rangs, we're going to start with the Flamerang. Pretty good rang, at least the idea of it. It works functionally the same as the basic boomerang, except it has fire added to it. It does one-hit a few enemies that the regular can't, and it helps get rid of obstacles, but I can't ignore the one downside of it. Being a completionist, you need to collect those opals. You need them all the time for every level, and it is just such a drag to have to sit there and wait a few seconds for those crates to pop open with your opals. So I think for that reason, and that reason alone, we're going to bust it down to C tier here. Next up, we have the Frostyrang, Blizzarang, whatever it's called. Honestly, they changed the name with every game. But this is the Ice Rang. So just like the Flamerang, it has some plus sides compared to the original Rang. It can clear obstacles. There are probably a few enemies that I'm forgetting. Actually, no. Never mind. It cannot kill enemies on its own. It just freezes them. And honestly, that's the major downside of this one, which is going to cause me to put it in C tier with the Flamerang. And the final elemental rang, the Zappyrang. Honestly, you get this one so late in the game, but you barely use it for obstacles. I can name maybe 2 generators off the top of my head that you need it for in the game, but there's no major downside to it at all. So I think this one's gonna go B tier, mid. Now we get to go down the Technorangs, starting with the Zoomerang. Honestly, exactly the same as the mid-tier regular boomerang, except it can go way farther, and you can zoom in on it. So I think for that, it's going to be our first in the A tier. We have the Multirang coming up next. The Multirang, again, exactly the same as the original Rang, except you can throw as many as you want with it. There is a short range with it, but I don't think that matters because you're just constantly throwing with this thing. So I feel like that is another A tier right there. Alright, getting into some special ones here. We're going to move on to the Infrarang. Really, exactly the same as the regular one, unless you're hunting for picture frames. But other than that, exactly the same. B tier, easy. Now we got the Megarang, which honestly, like, this thing homes in on enemies, it bounces between them, hits them multiple times. Yeah, if it's stuck bouncing between them, you might be left open for a little bit, but it's just like the ultimate in combat. It has to go an easy S tier here. Moving on, we have the Kaboomarang, which I feel like this is the only debatable one on the list. It has plenty of upsides. It has plenty of downsides. So let's think about the upsides. Obviously, really large range whenever it blows up. You guys saw in the video earlier, it took out all 7 of those frills at once. Let's see, it can kill enemies that other boomerangs cannot, such as the crabs and stuff. Really good there. Some downsides, you throw both rangs at once, so you are left open. It can't stop at enemies. It goes all the way to the edge of its explosion, if that makes sense. Like, it will pass straight through an enemy, keep going until it's set to explode. So that's a little bit of a downside. You gotta aim it a little bit better. But honestly, I think I'm gonna bump this one up to A tier. Not quite as good as the Megarang, but still pretty good. Alright, now this one's gonna be obvious. Chronorang, honestly, what the fuck does it even do? When are you gonna use this thing? All it does is slow down enemies, it can't kill them. F tier. And the Doomarang, the final rang you get in the game at the absolute end. You're given it by Sly. So let's see, you can remote control this one, aim it wherever you want for a limited amount of time. And it does do a small explosion after it blows up, but I don't think it's a really big one. I haven't tried using it on crabs or anything like that, so I'm not sure if it can kill those. But I think this one, I think it's a pretty mid-tier rank. It doesn't add anything cool, really, to make it A rank. All it does is remote control. It's not any major downside that would put it in C tier. It's definitely not an F tier or an S tier. I think this one is a basic mid tier. So there you go. That is my tier list for the Boomerangs here in Taiwan. If you think I was a little unfair or have a reason to boost something up or bring something down, tell me in the comments. I do want to add to this later on when I'm doing guides for Ty 2 and then obviously with Ty 3 and 4. But for now, this is what the list looks like. Thank you all for watching. That's going to conclude this week's episode of the Shaman Horde, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!